What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. The Rugby Championship is just around the corner now, so we've got to do the final team announcement video. It's the Springboks. We've already done it for the All Blacks, Argentina and Australia. We've somehow left the Springboks till last, even though I think they announced it first. But the Springboks have had the most news along the way, sort of updating their team. So the actual team that's been announced about 2 weeks ago now, that's how far back I am, is probably slightly different because of injuries being fixed and mended. There's a lot of positives for the Springboks to think about. So their opening game versus Australia, really looking forward to this one to see how South Africa get on. They are in a really tough pool for the World Cup alongside Ireland and Scotland. So you will want to hit the ground running with this Rugby Championship, get used to playing the top tier teams, get yourself into that World Cup and give themselves the best chance to succeed in it. Quickly, before we jump into actually looking at the teams, we do of course have the SUPERBRU running alongside the Rugby Championship. If you're not signed up already, you've still got a couple days left to do it. There is a whole video on the channel about how to join in and how it works. It's all free, just jump straight in. But if you already know a little bit about the SUPERBRU, you know what you're doing. I'll just drop the codes that you need down in the description of this video so you can jump straight in and join in with the rest of the community. So, having a look at the team that has been announced then. South Africa, the only team to not put out an actual interesting graphic, which is a shame. So I had to go make my own. So hopefully that'll suffice for now. Hopefully all the words and stuff are still good for you guys to read on your own screen. So in terms of your hookers then, Malcolm Marx last year was just doing exceptional. I used to think of him from a couple of years ago. I was like, this guy comes on from the bench and dominates a game. And then last year we got to see him starting games and he just dominates the game from just straight off. So Malcolm Marx for me might be the guy you start with. Joseph Dweb is probably my third choice out of all the hookers mentioned. I'm still not settled on him. He's a big unit. He's a big lad. But I just haven't seen him reach the heights of the other hookers for me. But I'm interested to know your guys' thoughts on this team as we go through it. Hey guys, it's me. I'm just editing this video at the moment, and I realised the list of players' names I got from the official source didn't contain any of the props. So in the video, I just completely missed them out, and I've only realised while editing. So I'll quickly jump in here as future me to talk about the props that they have named, which was Thomas du Toit, Steven Kitshoff, Vincent Koch, Frans Malherbe, Ox and Che, and Trevor Nyakane. Now they have announced a big set of props for that one. I think last year they were really pushing for Ox and Che and Frans Malherbe to be working together. I think with the mix-up now, I think with Malcolm Marx as well, really stepping up last year, and maybe I would be picking Malcolm Marx to start in terms of a starting hooker. For me, in terms of the props, looking at the team to go up against Australia in the first round, I would be leaning more towards Steven Kitshoff and Frans Malherbe more than Ox and Che, but make sure to drop down in the comment section your thoughts on the props. And now we'll swing back over to me, carry on with the video. In terms of the locks then, guys, of course, we've got the standard Lou Diarra, Eben Etzebeth, Marvin Ori coming into the side, looking forward to him. And the return of a big name who, I'm going to hopefully get the pronunciation of this correct. Of course, I'm based in the UK. Don't be too harsh if I get the mispronunciation wrong. I believe it's like Snemen, as opposed to like Snyman, as I'm sure I always used to call it. I think it's a little bit shorter in the pronunciation. But an absolute unit. He's an absolute giant. The South African locks. Absolute monsters. I don't even know who you start on this side. I guess they'd want to stay more typical. Eben Etzebeth has now been cleared, actually. That news just sort of came out today, that Eben Etzebeth has been cleared of like a shoulder injury. So he'll probably be starting, I'd imagine. I'm a big fan of his. And maybe put him inside along with Lou Diarra from how much experience they had last year playing together. But certainly a lot of competitive people playing for that lock department. In terms of the loose forwards then, Peter Steph du Toit alongside of Sia Khaleesi, Evan Roos, Quagga Smith and Marco van Staden. Now, Quagga Smith was a name I think I got introduced to last year, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, I have no idea who this guy is. Came on from the bench in every game and absolutely crushed it. I think he's a truly sort of, I don't know, almost like underrated. I never really hear a lot of people talk about him. I think Quagga Smith's a very good player. So I'm really looking forward to see how that gets on towards the World Cup. The thing about Quagga Smith was how the explosive impact he had from the bench. sometimes it could be an issue. Sort of like Malcolm Mark. Sometimes they're so good at coming on from the bench and actually shifting a game. It means they actually don't necessarily get into the starting team because, you know, they're like, oh, when you come on from the bench, you want to then change the game in like the 60th minute or something. And fresh on the bench, Quagga Smith's an absolute unit, but Sia Khaleesi, nice to still see in there. Alongside the utility forwards, which isn't really something we talk a lot about in the UK, really. We tend to just have people in their set positions. But utility for South Africa, Jean-Luc Dupries, Dion Forey, Franco Mostert, Dwayne Vermeulen, and Jasper Wiese. Now, Jasper Wiese was one last year that a lot of people were super hyped about, you know, getting that number 8 shirt. Dwayne Vermeulen, I would say maybe out of all the different 8s they have in this team, I might put Dwayne Vermeulen a little bit lower. Very big name in the world of international rugby, but I don't know, maybe just teetering towards the edge now. Maybe you want to go with someone like Jasper Wiese in there, or someone like Evan Roos, who I know a lot of people were extremely excited about last year as well. In terms of the backs, then they got named 5 scrum halves, which is wild. South Africa have good scrum halves. I'm surprised they have 5 of them to bring on it. It's very, very competitive. Bafaf de Klerk, Jaden Hendrikse, Herschel Jantjies, Kobus Reinach, and Grant Williams. Now, Kobus Reinach, in the last World Cup, was the first time I ever heard his name, and the first game I ever saw him in, I think he got a hat-trick coming on. I think he was somebody's captain in my SUPERBRU fantasy between a group of friends. Someone picked him as a captain, and he came on from the bench and scored a hat-trick, and I was furious. But a very good player getting in there. I imagine Faf de Klerk is probably still people's first choice, but Jaden Hendrikse, I was very, very impressed with last year, especially when Faf de Klerk got knocked out trying to tackle Caleb Clark. I couldn't think of the name then. Jaden Hendrikse really had to step up, got involved with the South African team, and I thought he played well. So maybe Jaden stays in there for a little bit. Your fly halves, there's going to be a little bit of a switch here. Manny Libok, who hopefully I'm getting that pronunciation correct. He is a player I don't know a lot about. He's playing over in the Stormers now, of course, played in that final against Munster. I did see the URC put out a thing that he's like the top try assist in the URC this year, and about 4 of the try assists came from like crossfield kicks. So could be very exciting to actually see him getting a South Africa team, if they're not going to just go through the forwards, having a different style fly half who's going to go for those sort of crossfield kicks and stuff. That could be fun to integrate into this team. Going up against Australia, you know, it's a bit more of an experimental Australia. No one really knows what Eddie Jones is going to bring. They're going to be a bit more of a wild card. It might be a good game just to give Libok the start for, and just sort of let him have fun with the game against a really top-tier nation. Andre Pollard also mentioned. Now, I believe Andre Pollard hasn't been cleared in terms of injury. I was trying to look at it before. I believe the other Jantjies, Elton Jantjies, has gone into the training squad for like training purposes. I don't believe Andre Pollard's got over his calf injury. So we might not be seeing Andre Pollard in the Rugby Championship, but I imagine a lot of South African supporters would be saying you'd rather not see him in the Rugby Championship so he could be fit for the World Cup, is what I'd be thinking. And then finally, Damien Valemsa, who also has been cleared of another shoulder injury, the same as Eben Etzebeth as well. So I think they're both in now, which is nice to see. Damien Valemsa again, stepping up for South Africa. I always thought of Damien Valemsa as a fullback. We had Andre Pollard go out. There was a lot of issues with the South African fly half last year. Damien Valemsa came in and brought a new style to the fly half. So I actually quite liked him there. But for me, opening game versus Australia, I'd be tempted to give Libok the start. In the centres, Lucania Am, Damien Dialende, Andre Esterhazen, and Jesse Creel. Now, there's 2 standouts here, right? I mean, Damien Dialende and Lucania Am is your 2 boys you're probably going in to start out with in a game. I've seen a bit of talk around the depth in the centre department for South Africa not necessarily being the strongest. I'm interested to know, a couple of South African subscribers may be able to drop down in the comment section your thoughts on the depth in the South African centres, because a lot of people seem to be very 50-50 about Jesse Creel. I've never really seen him do anything wrong, but I've never seen him be a game changer in centre. And Andre Esterhazen, I've not seen enough of him to really gauge. So if you have, key injuries to that centre department, who else slides into centre, who covers centre, what is the depth of that centre department? Because you've got 2 absolute standouts for me there, inside and outside centre. But after that, maybe a little drip off a little bit. Interested to see how that pans out towards the World Cup. And then finally, in the outside backs, Kurt Lee Orense, hopefully getting a bit correct. That's the name that most people call me out on for not quite getting the pronunciation correct. Cheslin Colby, Vili LaRue, Makazoli Mapimpi, and Cannon Moody coming in there. So for me, I mean, Vili LaRue's probably taking your fullback shirt, especially if Andre Parlad is not going to be taking part in this one. Damien Valemps has probably seen more as going to be pushed towards that fly half position. Maybe you have Damien Valemps on the fullback and fly half coverage by being on the bench. Could be an option. For me, Vili LaRue starts at fullback. For me, I'm thinking, World Cup winning back three here. No, I think you put Cheslin Colby on one wing and Mapimpi on the other wing. And I think you just go all out. But overall, South Africa bringing some big teams to the Rugby Championship. I'm really looking forward to see this one get kicked off. Their first game versus Australia should be very exciting to see a bit of a wild card Australia team against a bit more of a set South Africa team, but they've got, as a big hill to climb to get towards that World Cup with such a tough pool. So really looking forward to see how they get on. If you've enjoyed this one today, guys, remember to leave this video a like. Of course, we'll be doing the preview videos for the teams when they get announced for the actual games, whether it's on Thursday or Friday, whenever they get announced. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel to keep up to date with all the latest videos as they come out. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.